¿Usted quiebra mi ventana? ¿Por qué hizo eso, señor?
I am a U.S. citizen. I'm not dead. I had a shake.
Scenes of chaos in Charlotte, North Carolina over the weekend. Dozens of people caught up in Charlotte's Web. That's the name the Trump administration gave its latest round of immigration crackdowns. The man seen here was released after proving he is a U.S. citizen, but it's not clear what happened to the woman. U.S. Border Patrol agents swept through the city, arresting more than 130 people. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino is leading the crackdown after spearheading Border Patrol efforts in Chicago and in Los Angeles. Charlotte is now the 6th U.S. city targeted for Border Patrol enforcement. The raids drew protests in the strongly Democratic city where around 18% of residents are foreign-born. Hundreds of people marched on Saturday against the immigration crackdown. Local leaders also expressed their concerns about why their city is being targeted. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry is in Charlotte.
Federal immigration agents swept across Charlotte over the weekend, from landscaping gigs to shopping centers, arresting 81 people on Saturday alone. And yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security said a U.S. citizen drove a large van at law enforcement mid-operation, ramming cars and injuring an officer before he was arrested. The immigration raids drew protests in a strongly Democratic city where around 18% of residents were born outside the U.S.
A lot of friends and family and acquaintances who say that they're not going out. They're having their kids who are citizens go and pick up their clothes and food for them.
Customs and Border Protection Chief of Patrol Gregory Bovino uploaded photos of several people who were apprehended, claiming they are in the country illegally and outlining their alleged criminal histories.
I am a U.S. citizen.
But in videos posted online, some who were detained said they do have legal status. That includes Willie Isatuno, who was filming as federal agents broke a window of his truck before detaining him Saturday, even though he says he's a citizen. They threw me to the ground, and I always have my papers with me in my bag, he said. They didn't care. I told them many times. Once the agents did look at his documents, Isatuno said he was allowed to walk back to his car.
Any level of coordination with local or state officials has been basically non-existent.
Mark Jarrell is the chair of the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners.
People are scared. They're living in fear. I don't know who is being targeted. I don't know if it's a community or if it's individuals.
Our thanks to Skylar Henry for that report. And nationwide, the Department of Homeland Security says more than 500,000 people have been arrested and deported. The federal agency says its goal is to remove threats and ensure Americans are safe. Let's bring in CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Camilo, thank you for joining us. The Trump administration says the criminals are the target in these crackdowns. But do we know how many of those detained actually have criminal backgrounds?
Well, Muga, while the Trump administration and its top officials have said repeatedly that ICE and Border Patrol are mainly targeting the worst of the worst for deportation, the data that is available on this issue does indicate that the administration's crackdown on illegal immigration is extending well beyond just dangerous individuals and serious offenders. For example, earlier this month, we reported that ISIS detainee population had spiked to 66,000 and that roughly half of that record number, about 33,000 detainees, did not have any criminal charges or convictions, meaning that they were being held by ICE at that time solely for civil immigration violations like entering the country without permission or overstaying a visa. The rest of the detainees did have criminal charges or convictions, but we do not currently have a breakdown of the severity of those crimes. They could range from serious felonies like rape and murder to misdemeanors and immigration-related offenses like crossing the border illegally after being deported in the first place. We also know that out of Chicago, which obviously has seen a massive buildup of immigration enforcement in recent weeks, a federal judge has found that only a small percentage of about 600 detainees who he is looking and analyzing to see if they were illegally and improperly arrested have been actually designated as public safety threats. The government has revealed that only about 16 of those 600 detainees actually were classified as public safety threats because of criminal histories outlined by ICE and Border Patrol. At the same time, the Trump administration, Mugo, would counter that anyone who is in the country without a legal basis to be here is deportable and subject to deportation, even if they're not serious criminals.
Yeah, still very important, again, as I said earlier, with the context of those numbers that you just gave us, Camilo. And I understand you have exclusive reporting on plans for the next immigration operation in the works. What have you learned about that?
Well, according to Department of Homeland Security documents obtained by CBS News, Mugo, we can report that New Orleans appears to be the next target of the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. Border Patrol is preparing to send as many as 200 federal agents at that agency to New Orleans to arrest people they suspect are in the country illegally. We also know that Border Patrol has requested armored vehicles and special operations teams, and they could potentially be involved in this operation, which internally, Mugo, is being dubbed Catahoula Crunch. That is the name that the Department of Homeland Security has internally given to this operation, and it could start as soon as the new operation in Charlotte concludes there in North Carolina. And so the administration is planning to continue to expand immigration enforcement across the country, including in New Orleans, Mugo.
Yeah, some very interesting names for these serious and life-changing operations with Border Patrol agents. Camilo, I also understand you have new reporting as well on an attack in Texas. This one involved a man DHS says was in the country illegally. What have you learned there?
Well, we know that this incident occurred last week, and according to local police officials, a woman in Texas was allegedly attacked by a 17-year-old teenager while she was jogging in Plano, Texas. And according to the Department of Homeland Security, that 17-year-old suspect is a Mexican national, Mugo, who is in the country illegally after overstaying a visa back in 2016. So this is a case, obviously, that the administration wants to highlight to say that many or some of the individuals who are in the country illegally, Mugo, are committing crimes.
All right, Camilo Montoya-Galvez, as always, thank you so much for your exclusive reporting. Appreciate your time.